Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So here's a deck profile on my Spirit Charmers. So last time I did this, it was actually a budget build from the structure deck only. So this time I pieced together my own competitive build with the Spirit Charmers. Now the deck is actually a lot of fun and does hold some potential, but it still needs a little bit more support to kind of give it the edge it needs. But for right now, I did the best I could to make this deck compete against the current meta, and well, hopefully you guys will enjoy what I got this time around. So let's get started. So starting off with the actual Familiar Possess, or the actual Charmers, you could say, are two copies of Familiar Possess Hita. I only got one of the alternate art. But anyway, she's pretty good, just because, it's fire monsters, and, I just love fire overall. I think, honestly, Hita and the next one also are probably going to be the best two you want to play at, because you generally run more of their attributes than all the others. Ash Blossom is a card, so, like, yeah. Ash is fire and Heat is fire, so it's like in case if you need to bring it out in some way or another, this is probably going to be the best way to do it. But most of the time you can usually bring these out through special summoning anyway, so it almost doesn't even matter. But yeah, like definitely feel like these were the two best ones. For the one, it was one win, one area, so they all pretty much just do the same thing and all have the same stats. It just depends on which attribute you prefer best. But anyway, that's generally it. Now for the actual familiars, I'm running one of the new Awakening of the Possessed Nefarious or Archfiend. Probably the best one of the new support, simply because when this card is special summoned by its own effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard, but it negates its effects. Also, if this card is sent from field to the grave, you can add one Spiritual Earth Art or one Possessed spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So, not too bad, the fact that this card can basically search out your spells and traps. And this card is easily special summonable by sending a face-up spellcaster monster or a face-up level 4 or lower earth monster you control. So, but most of the time you don't even need to do it that way. You could easily bring this out either with the spells or traps. But yeah, like generally you just wanted to basically hit the graveyard from field to grave. So yeah. Next we have its original form, which is not too bad. And this card is sent to the graveyard. You can target one face-up monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card. Now, it's not that good considering that it's basically a 1-for-1, but you just run it mainly because it's an earth monster. Next, I'm not running the other version of Inari Fire. I think the original one's just slightly better, mainly because the fact that it's a level 4 monster where the other is a level 5. But anyway, I'm just running one copy of the Inari Fire, one Gigabyte, and lastly, one Ranryu. I don't really need to explain what these do. I mean, anyone who's familiar with Charmers, they sure already know what these actually do. But each of the familiars, these three specifically, they all special summon themselves so long as you control a spellcaster monster. The only difference is that the fire monster kind of brings itself back. Gigabyte special summons from grave, and then Ranryu special summons from Gigabyte special summons from deck, and Ranryu special summons from grave. So that's what I meant to say. I got them mixed up. But anyway, yeah, that's generally all they do. All right, for my starters, I'm actually running 3 copies of Fairy Tale Luna. I think this is probably the best card in the deck. Now, simply because it can also act as a form of disruption. And yeah, the fact that it can search out any of your Spirit Charmers as long as they have 1,850 attack points. So it can even search itself out. So yeah, Fairy Tale Luna, pretty good. For hand traps, I'm only running 3 copies of Ash Blossom. The most generic hand trap there is, so why not, right? All right, moving on to spells. I'm actually running an Extravagance build. So Pot of Extravagance is super good in this deck simply because you really don't rely on your extra deck all too much. Because as long as you can keep the pressure on your opponent, you can essentially keep poking them for damage. And 1850 is pretty good, so yeah. So Pot of Extravagance is definitely one of the best cards for this deck. 3 Spirit Charmers, so you discard a card, take 2 cards from your deck with different names from each other that are Charmer monsters, Familiar Possessed, or Possessed spells and traps. Add one to your hand, and you set the other one. So it's actually really good. So it's basically 2 for 2. So yeah, it's not too bad. Next, 2 copies of Awakening of the Possessed. I know I have another copy of the Ultra somewhere. I just gotta find it. But anyway, it's just there for basically because it gives your your monster's 300 attack points for each attribute you control. And also, each time you a charmer, familiar, possessed monster you control is summoned, if I'm not mistaken, you can draw one card. Yep, that's right. As long as, actually, it doesn't even have to be the charmer or familiar possessed. It just has to be a spellcaster with 1,850 attack points. But what's also cool is that it does protect your charmer and familiar possessed monsters from being destroyed by card effects. So yeah. Next, 2 copies of Grand Spiritual Art. This is basically another draw strength card, but it also acts as a form of disruption too. So basically, you negate your opponent's first monster effect that resolves each turn while you control a spellcaster monster with 1,500 defense points. So what's interesting about this is like it essentially keeps your opponent from disrupting you if you ever need to like get an effect going. So yeah, it's actually not too bad. Next, a little tech of mine, 2 copies of Book of Moon. The reason for this is because it essentially guarantees me to use Pot of Extravagance during my turn. So everyone already knows that Pot of Extravagance has to be the first card you activate during the main phase. And the cool thing about this is like if I'm forced to go second and my opponent has any form of spell or trap negation, I can bait him out during the standby phase and activate Book of Moon, force the negate out, and then from there I can freely activate Pot of Extravagance. So yeah, of course you still have to watch out for Ash Blossom, but a majority of the time, as long as you can bait out one negate, you're pretty much set to go. Moving on, 1 copy of Double or Nothing, simply because I am running the Utopia package, and yeah, figured why not. You do run plenty of level 4, so yeah, it's definitely one of the best packages. Moving on to traps, 2 Possessed Partnerships. So this is basically a back to the front. So special summon 1 spellcaster with 1,500 defense from your hand or graveyard and attack mode or face down defense mode. Then if you control monsters with 2 or more different attributes, you can destroy 1 face up card on the field. You can banish this card from the grave, then target 1 possessed continuous spell or trap and place it face up on the field. So it's actually really good to gain a lot of advantage, and it's also good for disruption. Next, 2 copies of Unpossessed. So it's kind of like the spell card. The only difference is that your charmer monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. And also, if a familiar possessed monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack points during the damage step. If monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is already face up on the field, you can special summon one spellcaster monster with 1,500 defense from your deck whose attributes is different from the last one that was destroyed. So that's what I meant to say it. Anyway, moving on. I decided to kind of go for a stun-based engine too, so I'm running 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, 2 copies of Solemn Strike, and last but not least, 1 copy of Skill Drain. So yeah, like just kind of, make sure that my opponent doesn't try to set up a massive board and just I can keep stunning him from there. And yeah, that's generally it. So pretty good engines, a lot of good packages. So definitely give them a try if you want to go for that. All right, now moving on to the extra deck. Extra deck is pretty self-explanatory simply because, I am running Extravagance. There's a lot of 2-ofs, 2 Hita, 2 Alsa, double Area, double Win. So 2 of each of the Charmer links. I'm also running IP Masquerena, so if I can get this out, it makes it so I can make Mech Knight Crusade Avermax, 1 Celine, and of course the 1 Avermax as I just mentioned. And yeah, that's it for the links. And then from there we go to our rank 4s. Rank 4s, I'm running Tornado Dragon just for spell and trap removal. And as I mentioned, I'm running the whole Utopia package so that way I can get access to my Double or Nothing. And, of course, Lightning, can't go wrong with that either. So that's generally it with these guys. And now moving on to the side deck. All right, now the side deck, I'm actually running 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. Just simply because, this stops a lot of decks that are graveyard reliant, especially dinosaurs. They need to banish their cards. So yeah, Artifact Lancia can slow them down. A little spice here. I'm actually running 3 copies of Gizmic Uka and the 1 Barrier Statue of Torrent. Simply because, Needle Fiber is still a card, combo decks are still a thing, and I feel like this was the best way to counter them if I end up going second. So yeah. 3 Dark Ruler No More, 2 Twin Twisters, Harpy's Feather Duster, and last but not least, 2 copies of Evenly Matched, just to make sure that I can manage to regain some advantage. So yeah, definitely some amazing cards here. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.